Happy New Year. Happy Monday. And today we are actually, today's office is outside. And I decided to just put on a little bonfire for myself. So I'm out here sitting next to the fire. And I was like, you know what? This is the perfect setting for today because everything is about renewing, refreshing, revamping because it's that new year, new you energy, right? And something I said for this new year is I'm not here for the rebrand, but I'm here to make what already God had in store for me work. And what I mean by that is you already possess things that are in your wheelhouse. You already possess all the capabilities and things that you have in need in order to make you successful. You already wake up successful. You just have to tap into those things on a regular basis and choose it daily if that is what you want to lean towards. Because every choice is either helping you move toward your desired purpose or desired reality that you want to live on a day to day basis, or it's hindering you. And that's something that you have to get really honest for yourself. Every shoe is different. There is not one size that fits all, but I am here to help you just navigate through what systems work best for you and how you can tailor your perfect system in order to fit the reality that you want to materialize. And so, on today's episode of Stepping into Being Her, which you know, being her is just really aligning with the version of yourself that has all of the things that you desire, that acts in dresses and exemplifies and exudes everything that you aspire to be because you are already her, you are already within. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, this is the first month of the year. If you go by the annual calendar, we have 12 months in the year. And I just want to give you a focal point for the month of January in order to be able to just kind of wrap your head and get some clarity around some things because you can't actually execute things if you don't have any clarity on where you're going, right? And that's something that I had to recognize and become aware of myself. I am a very organized person, but there comes a point when you can be so addicted to something that you create the opposite in order just to do the thing. And so for me, cleaning is one of my things. My family calls me OCD. Um, However, I realized over the years that I would clean for maybe accessibly every single day, but I didn't have a system in place in order to keep it clean, especially becoming a mother. When my boys are were younger, it was just everything was chaos. I would excessively clean at the beginning of the day and everything would just be thrown around within the next hour or two. And I would constantly repeat that cycle. And then there came a point where I was like, well, now I don't even want to clean because it's just going to get messed up. And then it became so overbearing that I didn't want to do anything within my space. And so I had to create a system for myself, not only what keeps my environment clean in order so I could have clarity and I could be able to function within my environment, but what's something feasible that they can do as well in order to help me out. And now they're a little bit older, they're 3 and they're 5. And so they can help me out with small things like cleaning up their toy room, cleaning up their room. They're very self sufficient actually for their ages. And I made a simple little schedule that's like a little flip chart. I'll probably show you guys another video on that later. But that was a system that I implemented not only to automate their habits and start to introduce them into responsibility and independence, but also to help my load. Because if my mental brain is, or if my mental space is just constantly cluttered, and as well as my physical space, then I'm not getting anything done. And me as the mom moves the house forward. I move the needle forward. So I was like, I got to come up with something. And that's just an example of tailoring a system to me that works for me in order to be able to be more efficient throughout my days. So here is my January system. And this theme for January is setting the foundation. So if you guys have been following my channel, then you know I just, or not just, but last year I created my business for VP Aesthetics, which is doing great. Um, are you back? Okay. All right, we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so all of this is financially based, and honestly, your finances they control a lot because they allow you to have different options. And I see time and time again, even and myself included, where when my finances were low, my demeanor was low, my energy was low, my creativity was low, and I just wasn't able to have more clarity. But once I dived into my own financial journey of really understanding my finances, what my mindset around it was, and my mindset around building wealth and my mindset around success, then I was able to have a better understanding and make goals that were not only achievable but also attainable without me feeling like it was truly impossible. And when you come from a place of, lack, or you come from a place of struggle or scarcity, this can be kind of difficult when you're going to it because you're doing all the things, you're probably overworking. But once you realize that, hey, no matter how much work I put into it, if it's not aligned, if it doesn't make sense, if it's not, directly affecting how I'm moving forward and to achieve my goal, then it's just really not feasible for me to do. And that was something that I had to have clarity on myself. And so now that I'm able to do it and flourish within my business, I was like, you know what? More people need to understand it from this perspective. So, first things first, review last year's spending and honestly. And how I did this is I did it through a Google Doc, and I literally just went through all of my statements. I used to be a former accountant, so I kind of have a background in understanding how to read finances and track pretty much everything. And I've always been kind of good at it. So, especially coming from a background in accounting. So, this was something that I was used to. And I just used a Google Doc, or you can simply get a pad and note paper and literally get to writing. Okay. You can go and print out your statements. You can go, if say you operate through your bank account, you can go and print out statements. Say if you operate on Cash App, then they have statements as well. Say if you just frivolously spend cash, then if you are able to hold your receipts, or you're able to see any type of receipts online, print those out as much as you possibly can. You need as much data as you possibly can in order to gain a full picture of where you actually are. Because if you don't know where you are, then you can't know where you're going to go. And just having goals set out there is simply just a fantasy and a pipe dream unless you have actionable steps in order to reach that goal. And you can reach it. Like, everything that you set out, you definitely can do it, but you do have to have some type of plan and strategy in order to get to that thing. So, review last year's spending honestly. Number two, you want to update your budget for your annual and irregular expenses. For me, this looks like any type of hospital bills, anything for my children's school. We got our car, we recently had to change the battery and change out tires and stuff. So things like that, things that, are just not necessarily you can't predict that it's going to happen, but you want to have it accounted for. So these are your miscellaneous expenses outside of your utilities, your rent, your food, gas. Outside of your necessities, these are things that maybe you need an oil change. So if you know that you get an oil change, I happen to get an oil change every month and a half to 2 months. That's something that you want to calculate for. Now, not saying that you will have all of this lump sum at one time because we're starting from scratch. And I know that once you put those numbers in your head, it starts to be big and become overwhelming. And that's where people tend to mess up. And I know that's where I used to get very overwhelmed, high anxiety, frustrated, like, forget this, let me just get rid of it. That's not what you want to do. So you just want to be aware of those numbers because they're obtainable, and we're going to break them down later. But update your budget for your annual and irregular expenses. So, how you calculate your annual expenses is you take what you would pay on a monthly basis. So, for the month of January, what are all your bills, including rent, utilities, food, gas, if you have any healthcare, insurance, any of that? Calculate all of those and put that number there. Then you're going to times that number by 12 because there are 12 months in an annual year or in a calendar year. And literally something that I did, it doesn't have to be fancy. Like I said, I do it on a Google Doc, but if I'm in a rush for time, I sit here and I do it on any scratch piece of paper I have. So right here, this is like my rent, phone bill, all of that stuff. Like it doesn't have to be fancy, but you can get the number. Okay. So number three, you want to set or reset sinking funds for the year ahead. So basically, if you know that something is there that you have to pay for, such as car insurance. Car insurance comes every single month. But if you want to make sure that you are on top of it, you want to know what that full number is. So, for instance, if you have a car note, there's a full number for your car loan, right? Versus the monthly payment. There's a full number. And when you are paying the monthly payment, you're paying the principal balance and you're paying interest. Okay. The principal balance is basically the balance that covers the car. The interest is the amount that the loan has procured for when you took out the loan for the car. And so you're paying both of those amounts. And a lot of people don't know this, but when you're paying your car note, if you're paying the minimum monthly payment, you are paying the interest off first, and then you are paying off the actual loan of the car. And the interest can be, depending on your current situation, it can be anywhere from 3 to 30%. Okay. And that is a lot. And the way that you get that down is you pay more towards your principal balance versus your interest. And you can call your car notes, or you could call your loan company and say, hey, I'm making this $800 payment and I would like it to go towards my principal versus my interest. And they can do that for you. But if you just keep it as is, then most of that money is going towards your interest versus your principal. And so you would basically be paying double what you normally would have paid if you would have paid it in a lump sum. And that's where getting clarity on your sinking funds is what I call it. That's where that clarity comes in at. Because even though it looks like a big number in the beginning, when you break something up into payments, you're actually paying more. That's why when companies or any subscription service you sign up and they ask you to pay the annual amount and it's usually like a percentage off, well, it's because they're charging you that percentage with your monthly payments versus if you pay the full thing up front. Now, I know again, some of us may not have the full amount up front, but it's great to have that in mind because that's something that we want to work towards because, of course, we want to be able to have things on auto pay and we want to be able to pay things in full. Those are the goals, right? So, number four is review your financial goals and priorities. I also have another like sheet that I actually do this in. I have a full workbook that'll be linked in the description, but I have a full sheet of what are my financial goals and what are my priorities. So, goals and priorities are two different things. Priorities is what are non negotiables, things that have to get done. So, for me, a priority is obviously paying for my home, paying for my utilities on a day to day that I need these things: food, gas, places for me to, or gas for me to transport and drop my boys off at school, go to my clients, things such as that. So those are priorities. Those are non-negotiables, things that are coming up. It's never, or I wouldn't say it's never changing, but it's constant daily things that I'm already experiencing. And then my financial goals are things I want to build up to. Investing into property, investing into a house, investing into a new car, investing into a brick and mortar. Like those are goals, right? And those are things that we want to have clarity on. So our next thing, check beneficiaries on accounts. You may not be at this step, and that is perfectly fine. But if you are, if you're a parent, I have my children as beneficiaries on my account. My husband has our children as beneficiaries on his account. So all of our stuff is set up to where our children receive anything, if anything were to happen to us. And we have those things set in place. And if you guys want me to go more into that, I can go into that on a later video. And then the final thing is create or refresh your emergency fund. Now, a thing that I like to use for my emergency fund, it helps me build my credit as well as it allows me to build my emergency fund is the Self app and the Kickoff Credit app. So both of those, they basically you can pay a monthly membership, but you acquire a loan and you pay monthly towards that loan, and it actually reports to your credit. Now, you want to make sure that you are paying the payments on time and doing more than the monthly payment in order to pay the loan back. But it goes onto your credit as a great asset if you are doing it correctly. And I'll leave a link for you to access those in the description below. But the Self app, I believe I have an emergency loan of 3,500, and I believe for my Kickoff app, I have I have an emergency loan for my Kickoff app at 1,800. So that allowed me to have like a little bit of wiggle room. And for my personal emergency fund, I would like to get it up to 20K. That would cover like a year's worth of expenses for me to just like, if I sat and did nothing. Um, so yeah, that's one of my goals, but that's something that I'm working on daily. But you want to make sure that if you haven't already started it, that you create it and you can start with as little as $5 to $10. And you want to be really strict about this. Now, when I first started creating my emergency fund, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to save $1,000 this month? Like, I don't even make $1,000 when I first started. And it wasn't the fact that I had to save a lump sum at one time, it's consistency. And consistency is going to be the biggest thing that you're going to get through anything, whether it be your personal life, whether it be your business, whether it be relationships, whether it be, your finances, whether it be a diet, whether it be going to the gym, whether it be reading, whether it be anything. Consistency is always the key. So, how consistent are you going to be? You have to have clarity on where you want to go. You have to be honest about where you currently are. And consistency is going to be that momentum that takes you forward to what you actually want to do. So, January is strictly about clarity and structure, not perfection. It's okay if you don't get every single day. Understand that you are not perfect, you are not a robot, and you are human, and have grace with yourself. But as long as you are making the intentional effort, and once you find clarity, it's easier to take those steps and it's easier to move that direction, and it's easier to be able to move the momentum forward. Now, go out there, be great, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.